David Carter had seen a lot of strange things in his life, but this had to be the weirdest. He stood in a crowded back alley marketplace on a lawless space colony called Zereth 7. The planet was a junkyard of old ships, failed businesses, and criminals trying to sell stolen goods. David wasn't a criminal, just a struggling mechanic looking for spare parts. His ship was gone, his credits were low, and he had no plan. Then he saw the auction. A group of shady traders stood in a circle, shouting numbers at a hooded man on a platform. The man was selling random junk, rusty engines, broken weapons, and damaged navigation systems. David wasn't interested until he heard the next item up for sale. A Mark V interstellar cruiser, abandoned but still intact. Starting price, 10,000 credits, the auctioneer announced. David's heart jumped. A Mark V was a high-quality ship, bold but powerful. Even a broken one was worth something. But 10,000 credits, that was more money than he had seen in years. The crowd murmured, but no one bid. Zereth 7 was full of desperate people, and no one wanted to waste money on an unknown ship. The auctioneer sighed. No takers. Fine. We lower the price to 5,000 credits. Silence. 1,000 credits. People shook their heads. The auctioneer groaned. All right. Last offer, 10 credits. David laughed. A spaceship for 10 credits. It had to be a scam. Maybe the ship didn't even exist. But he had nothing to lose. He raised his hand. I bid 10 credits. The auctioneer froze. The crowd turned to look at him. Silence. Then the auctioneer grinned. Sold. David blinked. Wait. What? The crowd burst into laughter. People whispered, shaking their heads. That fool just bought a death trap, someone muttered. The auctioneer handed David a rusty keycard. Hangar 42. Good luck, kid. David took the card, still confused. Did he just buy a spaceship for 10 credits? A ship in the dark. Hangar 42 was deep inside the colony. David pushed open the heavy metal doors and stepped inside. It was dark and smelled like old fuel. The only light came from flickering ceiling lamps. And then he saw it. A massive spaceship sat in the middle of the hangar, covered in dust. It was old but not broken. Mark V interstellar cruiser. His heart raced. This was real. He actually owned a spaceship now. Not bad for 10 credits, he muttered. David climbed the ramp and entered the ship. The inside was cold and silent. The control panels were dead, but the air smelled fresh. Life support was still running. That was a good sign. He reached the cockpit. The seats were worn out, but everything looked functional. He pressed a few buttons, trying to start the system, but the ship didn't respond. Figures. Probably needs a power reboot, he sighed. Then something beeped. David jumped. The noise came from the back of the ship. He followed the sound, moving through the dark corridors. The ship had several rooms, crew quarters, storage, and even a medical bay. But the beeping led him to a locked door. He swiped the rusty keycard. The door slid open. Inside, 3 large cryogenic pods stood in a row, glowing with a faint blue light. David's breath caught. What the hell? Inside the pods were 3 alien women. 3 unexpected passengers. The first woman was tall and powerful-looking, with midnight blue skin and glowing golden tattoos on her arms. Even in cryo sleep, she looked like a warrior. The second had metallic silver hair and wore a sleek bodysuit with mechanical implants on her arms. An engineer or scientist. The third had deep purple skin, long white hair, and a calm expression. Something about her seemed strange. David swallowed hard. What have I gotten myself into? Before he could think, the cryopods beaked again. The lights turned red. A robotic voice echoed through the ship. Cryogenic sequence disengage. Revival process initiated. David's eyes widened. Wait, No. The pods hissed as they warmed up. The 3 alien women were waking up. The chase begins. Before David could react, the ship's intercom crackled to life. "Attention, unauthorized occupant," a deep voice growled. David froze. Someone was outside. "That ship belongs to us. Open the door, or we blast you to pieces." Through the ship's dusty window, David saw 3 heavily armed mercenaries standing in the hangar. They looked angry. David's heart pounded. Who were these guys? And why were they after his ship? Behind him, the cryopods hissed louder. The alien women were seconds away from waking up. And outside, the mercenaries cocked their weapons. David had 10 seconds to figure out a plan, or he was dead. David had only 10 seconds to act. Outside the ship, 3 heavily armed mercenaries were getting ready to blast the door open. Inside, the cryogenic pods were unlocking, releasing their frozen passengers. His heart pounded. What now? The first pod hissed open. The blue-skinned warrior took her first breath, her golden eyes snapping open. She stepped forward, muscles tense, as if waking up from a battlefield. Her gaze locked onto David. "Who are you? Where am I?" she demanded, her voice strong and sharp. David raised his hands. I'm David. I just bought this ship for 10 credits and..." The second pod clicked open. The silver-haired woman gasped as she woke up. Her glowing cybernetic implants flickered as her eyes darted around. She steadied herself against the pod, blinking rapidly. "Systems rebooting," she muttered, rubbing her temples. Then her gaze landed on David. "Who are you?" "Still David," he said quickly. "And we have a problem." The third pod unlocked. The white-haired, purple-skinned alien took a slow breath, her eyes opening with a calm, almost serene expression. Unlike the other 2, she didn't seem alarmed. Instead, she tilted her head, studying David curiously. "Interesting." David groaned. "Okay, listen. There are 3 mercenaries outside, and they're about to kill us. Any ideas?" The warrior woman stepped forward. "If they are enemies, we fight." "With what?" "I don't have weapons," David protested. The silver-haired woman blinked. "You bought the ship, but didn't check its systems." David scratched his head. "I only had 10 seconds before you guys woke up." The warrior scoffed. "Then move aside." "I will." Boom! A loud explosion shook the ship. The mercenaries were trying to blast the door open. David stumbled. "Oh, come on." The silver-haired woman ran to a control panel. Her fingers flew over the buttons. "Ship systems are online. I'm rerouting emergency power." The calm white-haired woman glanced up. "Shields are at 4%. That's bad, correct?" David's stomach twisted. "Yes." Another explosion rocked the ship. The door buckled. The warrior cracked her knuckles. "Good. I was hoping for a warm-up." David groaned. "Why is no one panicking except me? Lift Okaf or die." The mercenaries fired again. This time, the door collapsed. 3 armored men stormed in, weapons raised. They wore black combat suits with red markings, bounty hunters. Their leader, a scared brute with a cybernetic arm, stepped forward. "Nobody move," he barked. "This ship belongs to Black Sun Syndicate. You're trespassing." David sighed. "Okay, look, I didn't steal this ship. I bought it fair and square for 10 credits." The mercenaries laughed. 10 credits. This ship is worth millions. You got scammed, boy." David's stomach dropped. Millions. The warrior woman stepped in front of David. "If you want the ship," she growled, "take it from my dead hands." The leader smirked. "Gladly." He pulled the trigger. ZAP. Before David could blink, the warrior moved. She dodged the blast like lightning, grabbing the mercenary's wrist and twisting it. There was a sickening crack. The mercenary screamed as his weapon fell. The silver-haired woman jumped into action. She grabbed a metal rod from the floor, spun it like a staff, and smashed it into another mercenary's chest. Sparks flew from her cybernetic implants as she moved with machine-like precision. David gawked. "What are you people?" The calm, white-haired woman simply smiled. "Survivors." She raised her hand, and the last mercenary froze. Literally. His body was encased in a faint purple glow, suspended in the air as if gravity had stopped working. David's jaw dropped. "Okay, she has space magic. That's cool." The leader groaned, holding his broken wrist. "You idiots, you have no idea what you just stole." David glared. "I didn't steal it." The warrior pressed her boot against the mercenary's chest. "What do you mean?" The mercenary grinned despite the pain. "That ship, that crew, they're dangerous. And now, the entire Black Sun Syndicate will come for you." David's stomach sank. "Oh, that's not good." The silver-haired woman snapped her fingers. "Discussion later. We are taking off." David ran to the cockpit. "Wait, can you fly this thing?" The warrior cracked her neck. "We will find out." David gulped. "I hate that answer." "Escape from ZRAT." David strapped in as the ship's engines roared to life. Outside, alarms blared. More mercenaries were swarming toward the hangar. The warrior grabbed the controls. "Hold on." The ship lurched upward, smashing through the hangar ceiling in a cloud of dust and fire. Sirens wailed across Zerath 7 as turrets locked onto the fleeing ship. Incoming missiles. The silver-haired woman shouted. David clutched his seat. "Do so meeting." The white-haired woman raised her hand. The ship shook as a strange purple glow surrounded it. The missiles veered off course. David's eyes widened. "Okay, that's actually awesome." The ship broke through the atmosphere, entering the void of space. David let out a breath of relief. "We made it." The warrior frowned. "No, they will come for us." David sighed. "Great." The silver-haired woman smirked. "Then we better be ready." David groaned. "I just want a ship. Why do I have enemies? No." The white-haired woman chuckled. "Fate is funny that way." David buried his face in his hands. This was going to be a long, long trip. David slumped in the pilot's seat, staring at the vast emptiness of space. He still couldn't believe what had happened. 1 hour ago, he was a broke guy who spent his last 10 credits on a spaceship. Now he was the accidental captain of a high-value ship, flying away from a deadly crime syndicate with 3 alien women who could probably snap him in half. "Okay," he muttered to himself. "This is fine. Everything is fine." The warrior woman, still gripping the ship's controls, gave him a sideways glance. "You talk too much." David sighed. "I do that when I'm about to die." The silver-haired woman smirked. "Good news. You're not dead yet." David groaned. "That's not very comforting." The white-haired woman, sitting cross-legged on a floating cushion, smiled softly. "We should discuss our situation. The Black Sun Syndicate will hunt us. We need a safe place." David rubbed his temples. "I don't even know your names, and we're already running for our lives." The warrior crossed her arms. "I am Zaira of the Tovan Battleborn. My people are warriors. We do not flee from battle." David gestured at the cockpit window. We just ran away." Zaira scowled. "Only because you humans build ships without weapons." The silver-haired woman tapped her temple, her cybernetic implants flickering. "I am Lyra 17. I was designed for data processing, combat calculations, and ship optimization." David raised an eyebrow. "Wait, you were designed?" Lyra nodded. "Yes. My creators thought emotions were unnecessary. They were wrong." David gulped. "Okay. Remind me never to make you mad." Finally, the white-haired woman spoke, her voice calm as ever. "My name is Silani. I am different. David blinked. That's not an answer. Silani simply smiled. No, it is not. David sighed. Okay, whatever. We need a plan. Zaira grunted. I say we find a planet, repair the ship, and fight back. Lyra frowned. We need resources first. The ship has low energy reserves. We must find a trade hub. Silani tilted her head. The nearest station is Erothis 5, but it is also controlled by criminals. David groaned. Great. More crime lords. I love my life. 2 8 EOROT Asia. 5. The ship's engines hummed as they approached Erothis 5, a massive space station orbiting a dead planet. The place looked rusty, dangerous, and full of shady characters. David felt uneasy. Are you sure this is a good idea? Zaira smirked. No. David sighed. Fantastic. As they docked, Lyra connected to the station's network. We have limited credits, but I can hack into small systems if needed. David frowned. Just don't get us caught. Okay. Lyra gave him a flat look. I do not get caught. Silani touched David's shoulder gently. Be careful. This place is dangerous. David gulped. Noted. They stepped out of the ship, immediately surrounded by shady traders, smugglers, and mercenaries. The air smelled of oil, rust, and bad decisions. David whispered, Stay close. No one trusts a loner in a place like this. Zaira chuckled. I fear no one. A giant lizard-like alien stomped in front of them. Hey, you. Never seen you before. New here? David forced a friendly smile. Yeah. Just looking to do some business. The alien narrowed its reptilian eyes. Business, huh? What kind of business? David hesitated. Zaira cracked her knuckles. The kind where you walk away before you lose your teeth. The alien sneered but backed off. Tech. Fine. Watch yourself, human. David sighed in relief. Okay, let's just get what we need and... Suddenly, a station-wide alert blared. Attention all citizens. A ship carrying fugitives from the Black Sun Syndicate has entered the station. A huge bounty is placed on their heads. David's blood turned ice cold. Every single person in the market turned to look at them. Avo. Run or fight. A group of heavily armed thugs stepped forward, weapons raised. That's them, one of them shouted. Zaira grabbed her sword. Good. I was getting bored. David panicked. No, no, no. We run. We grow UN now. Lyra hacked into the station's lights, plunging the market into darkness. Silani raised her hands, creating a strange energy wave. The gravity in the area twisted, sending enemies floating helplessly. David gawked. I love that ability. Zaira grabbed David's arm, pulling him toward the exit. Move, human. They ran through the darkened corridors, alarms blaring. David panted. Where's the ship? Lyra's eyes glowed. I have activated autopilot. It is waiting at Dock 14. David groaned. Which way is that? Silani lifted her hand, sensing the station's structure. She pointed left. This way. Hurry. Blaster fire whizzed past them. Mercenaries were giving chase. Zaira turned, throwing a knife that struck an enemy's shoulder. He collapsed, screaming. Lyra spun, pulling out a small hidden pistol, firing 2 precise shots. Their pursuers stumbled, falling unconscious. David gasped. When did you get a gun? Lyra smirked. I always have a gun. Silani waved her hand. The door to Dock 14 slammed shut behind them, sealing off their pursuers. David collapsed into the ship's seat. I hate this station. Let's never come back. Zaira grinned. Agreed. Lyra engaged the engines. Hold on, jumping to light speed. The ship's thrusters roared. They blasted out of Erothis 5, leaving chaos behind. David exhaled. That was too close. Silani smiled softly. But we survived. David groaned. Yeah, but now the bounty on our heads just got bigger. Zaira chuckled. Good. More enemies to fight. David buried his face in his hands. He was never getting a normal life again. David slumped in his seat, still catching his breath. The ship hummed softly as it cruised through deep space, far from Erathis 5. His heart was still pounding from their narrow escape. We need a new plan, he muttered. Zaira stretched her arms, looking completely unfazed. That was fun. I needed a good fight. David glared at her. You call that fun? We almost died. Lyra's silver eyes flickered as she processed information. The bounty on us has increased. Every criminal in this sector will be looking for us now. Silani nodded calmly. We cannot outrun them forever. We need allies. David groaned. Great. And where exactly do we find allies when the entire galaxy thinks we're criminals? Silani closed her eyes for a moment. There is someone, but it is a risk. Zaira cracked her knuckles. Risk is better than waiting for death. David sighed. Fine. Who are we talking about? Silani's voice lowered. A man named Captain Oris Kane. He was once a high-ranking officer in the Galactic Fleet. Now he leads a group of independent mercenaries. David frowned. So, pirates. Lyra shook her head. Not pirates. More like survivors. People who have been abandoned by the system. David rubbed his temples. And why would this guy help us? Silani's eyes darkened. Because he hates the Black Sun Syndicate as much as we do. The Meeting. After a few hours, they arrived at a hidden asteroid base. The place was surrounded by defense turrets and old warships. The moment they got close, a warning message appeared on the screen. Unidentified ship, state your purpose or be destroyed. David gulped. We're here to see Captain Oris Kane. Silence. Then, after a long pause, the voice returned. Dock at Bay 3. No sudden moves. The ship carefully entered the base. The docking bay was dark, filled with scrap ships and heavily armed guards. As they stepped out, a group of rough-looking mercenaries surrounded them. Their leader, a tall man with cybernetic arms and a scared face, approached. So, you're the ones causing trouble for the Black Sun, he said, his voice deep and rough. Silani bowed slightly. Captain Kane. It has been a long time. David blinked. Wait, you know him. Kane smirked. Silani and I go way back. He turned to David. And you must be the human everyone's talking about. David raised his hands. I don't want any trouble. I just bought a ship for 10 credits, and now everyone wants me dead. Kane chuckled. Yeah, that ship. It's more valuable than you realize. David frowned. How valuable are we talking? Kane's smile faded. Let's just say it was never meant to be sold. The Black Sun stole it from a secret research facility. And now, they'll do anything to get it back. David felt a chill run down his spine. So, what's the ship's secret? Kane crossed his arms. I don't know, but I can help you find out. Zaira stepped forward. And what do you want in return? Kane's eyes glinted. I want revenge. The deal. Kane led them to a war room, where a large holomap displayed the galaxy. He pointed to a Black Sun outpost on a distant moon. They'd been storing weapons and ships here. We hit them, we take their supplies, and we send a message. David frowned. You want us to attack a Black Sun base? Kane smirked. You're already on their most wanted list. Might as well hit them where it hurts. Lyra analyzed the map. A direct assault is too risky. But if we disable their security systems first, we could succeed. Zaira grinned. I like this plan. David sighed. Why do I feel like I'm going to regret this? Silani touched his shoulder. Because you are afraid. David groaned. Yeah, well, I like being alive. Kane chuckled. Then don't get yourself killed. Preparing for battle. The team spent the next few hours preparing. Kane's crew provided them with new weapons, armor, and a strategy. David held a small plasma pistol, feeling completely out of his depth. I'm a pilot, not a fighter. Zaira patted his back. Then stay behind me. I'll handle the fighting. Lyra adjusted her wrist device. I will hack into their security systems remotely. But I need time. Silani closed her eyes. And I will do what I must. David gulped. That's not cryptic at all. Kane grinned. We leave in 1 hour. Get ready. David took a deep breath. He'd never imagined his life would turn into a war against space criminals. But now, there was no turning back. David sat inside the spaceship's cockpit, staring at the holo map in front of him. The Black Sun Syndicate's outpost was marked in red, a heavily guarded facility on a rocky moon called Drexus 4. He let out a long sigh. So, just to be clear, he said, turning to the others, our plan is to break into a base full of dangerous criminals, steal their supplies, and escape before they turn us into space dust. Zaira grinned, checking the blade of her plasma sword. That's the fun part. David groaned. For you, maybe. Silani's deep purple eyes remained calm. Fear is natural, David, but we must do this. Otherwise, we will be hunted forever. Lyra, typing rapidly on her wrist device, looked up. I have infiltrated their security systems. If we do this quickly, they won't even know we were there, until it's too late. David took a deep breath. All right, let's hope this works. 8P approaching the base. Their spaceship hovered above Drexus 4, using the moon's rocky terrain to remain hidden. The outpost wasn't huge, just a landing bay, a central building, and a few guard towers. But the problem was the soldiers patrolling the area. Kane's voice came through their comms. All right, team. You've got 1 hour before their patrol shifts change. Make it quick. Lyra tapped a few buttons. I am disabling their external security sensors. They won't see us coming. David nodded. Let's move. Infiltration. They landed a safe distance away and moved in on foot. The air was thin, but their suits kept their oxygen level stable. Dark clouds covered the sky, giving them good cover. David's heart pounded. He wasn't a soldier. He was just a guy who got tricked into buying a spaceship. How did his life turn into this? Zaira took the lead, moving silently like a predator. She pointed to a small service entrance. That's our way in. David turned to Lyra. Can you open it? Lyra pressed a few buttons on her wrist device. Already done. The metal door slid open with a quiet hiss. Zaira smirked. Now, let's steal some stuff. Inside Tiaki base, the corridors were dimly lit, lined with crates of weapons and high-tech supplies. David whistled. Well, they sure have a lot of expensive stuff. Zaira picked up a plasma rifle. And now it's ours. Lyra tapped her device. I've located the main storage room. It's at the center of the base. Silani nodded. Let's move quickly. They hurried through the halls, avoiding patrolling guards. David's nerves were on fire, but somehow they managed to stay undetected. Then, they reached the storage room. Inside were rows of crates filled with advanced tech, weapons, and stolen artifacts. Lyra and Zaira quickly started grabbing what they could. David, however, noticed something strange in the corner of the room. A sealed pod with a glowing control panel. What's this? He muttered, stepping closer. Lyra glanced at it. Strange. This isn't on any inventory list. David hesitated, then pressed a button. With a hiss, the pod opened. Inside was a girl. The mysterious Prizonier. She had pale blue skin and long silver hair. Her eyes fluttered open, revealing bright golden irises. She looked around, confused. David took a step back. Hi. The girl gasped and tried to move, but her wrists were bound by glowing energy restraints. Silani's eyes widened. She's a Solarian. Zaira cursed. That's bad news. David blinked. Okay, someone explain. Silani spoke quickly. Solarians are powerful energy beings. The Black Sun must have captured her for her abilities. David looked at the girl. Hey, we're not with the Black Sun. We can help you. She hesitated, then nodded slowly. Lyra hacked into the pod system, disabling restraints now. The glowing shackles disappeared. The girl staggered forward, catching herself against David. I am Ilara, she whispered. David helped her stand. Nice to meet you, Ilara. Now let's get out of here before. ALRM blaring. David's stomach dropped. Lyra cursed. They've detected us. Zaira grabbed a plasma rifle. Guess we're fighting our way out. The escapee. Red warning lights flashed as guards stormed the hallways. Zaira took the lead, blasting enemies left and right. David ducked behind cover, firing his pistol wildly. Silani created a shield of energy, blocking incoming shots. Ilara, still weak, held on to David. I can help. She raised her hand. A pulse of blue energy shot forward, disabling enemy weapons. David gaped. Whoa, that's useful. Lyra shouted. The exit is straight ahead. They sprinted through the corridors, dodging fire. Suddenly, a massive guard stepped in front of them. Zaira grinned. Finally, a challenge. She lunged, slicing through his armor with her plasma sword. David and the others rushed past, heading for the exit. Their ship was waiting outside, engines ready. As they ran up the ramp, more guards poured out of the base. Kane's voice came through the comms. Hurry up. They're launching fighters. David jumped into the pilot's seat and hit the controls. The ship roared to life and blasted into the sky, breaking free. As they escaped the moon's gravity, enemy fighters pursued them. David gritted his teeth. Hold on. He pulled the ship into a sharp spin, dodging incoming fire. Lyra activated the rear cannons, blasting one of the enemy ships. Zaira cheered. Nice shot. Silani focused her energy. I will try something. She reached out, and suddenly, one of the enemy ships lost control and spun into another. David whooped. Remind me never to mess with you. After a few tense minutes, they finally jumped into hyperspace. The stars stretched into streaks of light. Silence. David leaned back, breathing hard. We made it. Ilara looked at him, her golden eyes filled with gratitude. Thank you. You saved me. David shrugged. I think I just made our problems even bigger. Zaira laughed. Oh yeah. The Black Sun is going to be very mad. David sighed. Of course they are. David collapsed into the pilot's chair, breathing heavily. The ship had barely escaped from Drexus 4, and his hands were still shaking from the intense flight. Zaira threw her plasma sword onto the table and grinned. That was fun. David looked at her, wide-eyed. Fun. We almost died. Silani exhaled calmly, closing her eyes. We survived. That is what matters. Lyra checked her wrist device. I have good news and bad news. David sighed. Give me the bad news first. Lyra's deep blue eyes darkened. The Black Sun has placed a bounty on us. Every bounty hunter and pirate in this sector will be after us. David groaned. And the good news? Lyra smirked. We got what we came for. Advanced weapons, high-tech supplies, and, well, her. Everyone turned to Ilara, the mysterious Solarian girl they had rescued. She sat quietly, hugging her knees. Her silver hair shimmered in the dim light, and her golden eyes flickered with uncertainty. David walked over and crouched beside her. Hey, you okay? Ilara looked at him, hesitating. I do not understand why you saved me. David smiled. Because that's what good people do. Ilara's eyes widened slightly. Good people. I have never met one before. David frowned. What do you mean? Ilara's voice was barely a whisper. The Black Sun took me when I was a child. They used my powers. Zaira's expression darkened. Those scum. Silani placed a gentle hand on Ilara's shoulder. You are safe now. Ilara nodded slowly. Then suddenly, alarm blaring. David's stomach dropped. Oh, come on. We just escaped. Lyra's eyes widened as she checked the radar. Multiple ships incoming. They found us. Zaira grabbed her weapons. Time for round 2. David groaned. I really need a vacation. The chase begins. Through the cockpit window, David could see 4 Black Sun fighter ships speeding toward them. Their sleek black hulls gleamed under the distant starlight. David grabbed the controls. Hold on. He yanked the ship into a sharp turn, dodging the first blast of plasma fire. Silani steadied herself. They are fast. Lyra's fingers danced across her console. I'm activating countermeasures. Outside the ship, small metal pods launched into space and exploded, creating a field of energy pulses. 2 of the enemy ships flew straight into them and spun out of control. Zaira whooped. Nice shot. David's grip tightened on the controls as the last 2 enemy ships accelerated. One of them fired a missile. David's eyes widened. Oh no. Ilara suddenly stood up, her golden eyes glowing. She raised her hands, and a wave of blue energy pulsed outward. The missile froze in midair. David gawked. Whoa. With a flick of her fingers, Ilara redirected the missile straight back at the enemy ship. Boom. The explosion sent the fighter spiraling into deep space. Zaira blinked. I like her. Ilara staggered, exhausted. David caught her before she could fall. She looked up at him. I can do more. Just give me time. David shook his head. You already did enough. Rest. Lyra pointed at the radar. The last enemy ship is still coming. David gritted his teeth. All right. Let's end this. He pushed the engines to maximum and raced toward an asteroid field. Zaira's eyes widened. Are you insane? David grinned. Probably. A dangerous ESTAP. The spaceship darted into the asteroid field, weaving between giant spinning rocks. The last Black Sun fighter followed, firing wildly. David's heart pounded. One wrong move, and they'd be space dust. Silani closed her eyes. I can sense their movement. Turn left. David didn't hesitate. He yanked the controls left just as a massive asteroid passed by. The enemy ship wasn't so lucky. Crash. It slammed into the rock and exploded in a fiery blast. David let out a breath. We made it. Zaira laughed. Remind me to never doubt you again. Lyra checked the scanners. No more hostiles. We're safe for now. David leaned back in his seat. I need a nap. Silani smiled. You have earned it. Nihu trouble. As the crew took a moment to breathe, Lyra suddenly stiffened. Wait. Something's wrong. David groaned. What now? Lyra's fingers danced over the controls. A transmission is coming through. From the Black Sun's leader. Zaira scowled. Put it on. A holographic figure appeared in the center of the ship. A tall alien with sharp red eyes and dark armor smirked at them. Congratulations, he said. You survived my hunters. David crossed his arms. Yeah, and we're still standing. What do you want? The Black Sun leader chuckled. I admire your bravery, human, but you have taken something that belongs to me. His eyes locked onto Ilara. She is my property. Return her now, and I may let you live. David felt rage burn inside him. He glanced at Ilara. She looked terrified. He clenched his fists. No deal. The Black Sun leader smiled coldly. Then prepare for war. The transmission cut off. David turned to his crew. We have a big problem. Zaira smirked. Let them come. Ilara took David's hand. Thank you for standing by me. David squeezed her hand. We're not done yet. Lyra's voice was serious. We need to prepare. They'll be coming in full force. Selani's purple eyes glowed. Then let us be ready. David took a deep breath. He had started this journey as a broke guy looking for a deal. Now, he was about to go to war with the most dangerous syndicate in the galaxy. And he was not backing down. David sat in the pilot's chair, staring at the vast emptiness of space. The Black Sun's leader had given his ultimatum. Surrender Ilara or be destroyed. But David wasn't going to back down. He glanced at his crew. Zaira was sharpening her plasma sword, her golden eyes filled with excitement. Selani sat cross-legged, her purple skin glowing faintly as she meditated. Lyra tapped rapidly on her control panel, setting up the ship's defenses. And Ilara. She stood near the window, looking at the stars with a nervous expression. David walked over. You okay? Ilara hesitated. I don't want anyone to die because of me. David smiled. We're not fighting for you. We're fighting with you. She looked up at him, surprised. Zaira smirked from across the room. Enough talking. When are these cowards arriving? Lyra's console beeped. Her eyes widened. Right now. The radar screen lit up with enemy ships. David's heart pounded. The Black Sun had sent an entire fleet. Dozens of sleek black warships surrounded them, their weapons glowing ominously. The holographic figure of the Black Sun leader appeared in the center of the ship. His red eyes glowed with amusement. This is your last chance, human, he said. Hand over the girl, and you may leave. David crossed his arms. Nah. The Black Sun leader sighed. Then you will die. The hologram vanished, and the enemy fleet opened fire. The fight begins. David jerked the controls, rolling the ship just in time to avoid a barrage of plasma blasts. Lyra's fingers flew across the console, activating countermeasures. Small drones launched from their ship, exploding in bright flashes, jamming enemy targeting systems. Zaira grinned. Now it's our turn. She grabbed her blaster rifles and rushed to the cargo bay. Selani followed, holding a glowing energy staff. Let us welcome our guests properly. David didn't have time to ask what they meant. Enemy ships were boarding. Metal claws latched onto the hull. Doors began to melt from laser cutters. Zaira cracked her knuckles. Time to fight. The doors burst open, and Black Sun soldiers stormed in. Zaira charged. Her plasma sword sliced through their armor, her movements a blur of deadly precision. Selani moved gracefully, using her staff to disarm enemies with smooth strikes. Blaster fire filled the ship. Smoke, sparks, and battle cries echoed through the corridors. David stayed in the cockpit, gripping the controls tightly. Lyra, we need an escape plan. Lyra's eyes scanned the data. There's a nebula nearby. If we reach it, we can lose them. David nodded. Then let's do it. But first, they needed to deal with the enemy inside. ELARA's power. David grabbed a blaster and rushed to the cargo bay. He saw Zaira and Selani holding back dozens of enemies. The Black Sun soldiers were everywhere. Then, a cold voice filled the room. You should not have defied me. The Black Sun leader stepped through the smoke. His armor was sleek and dark, his red eyes burning with fury. Zaira growled. I've been waiting for this. She lunged at him, but he blocked her sword with a single hand. A powerful shockwave sent her flying backward. David fired his blaster. The leader caught the energy bolt with his bare hand. He smirked. Pathetic. Ilara suddenly stepped forward. Her golden eyes glowed brightly. Enough, she whispered. A wave of energy erupted from her body. The Black Sun soldiers froze in place, their weapons ripped from their hands. Even the leader staggered back, eyes wide. What are you? He hissed. Ilara's voice was steady. Not yours. She raised her hands, and the entire enemy squad was hurled back by an invisible force. The Black Sun leader crashed against the wall, stunned. Zaira smirked. Nice. David didn't waste time. Back to the ship. Now. The crew rushed inside as Lyra fired up the engines. The ship blasted off, leaving the enemy fleet behind. The final is full speed to the nebula. David shouted. Lyra pushed the engines to maximum. The enemy warships chased them, firing relentlessly. Explosions rocked the ship. We won't make it, Lyra warned. David gritted his teeth. Ilara, can you do something? Ilara placed her hands on the control panel. Her energy spread through the ship. Suddenly, the ship vanished. Not just from sight, from sensors, from reality. The enemy fleet lost them. Inside their ship, David looked around in shock. What just happened? Ilara collapsed, exhausted. I shifted us out of phase, she murmured. Lyra's eyes widened. You mean we're between dimensions? Ilara nodded weakly. Just for a moment. But it should be enough. David looked at the radar. The enemy fleet was gone. They had escaped. He let out a long breath. Zaira grinned. That was fun. David groaned. You have a weird idea of fun. Silani placed a hand on Ilara's forehead. Rest now. You saved us all. Ilara smiled faintly before drifting into sleep. And you do beginning. Hours later, the crew sat together in the main room, finally able to relax. David leaned back. So, what now? Lyra smirked. We're rich. That Black Sun base had plenty of loot before we blew it up. Zaira stretched. I say we find another adventure. Silani nodded. The universe is vast. David looked at Ilara. She was finally free. He smiled. Where do you want to go? Ilara's golden eyes sparkled. Somewhere where I can be more than just a weapon. David grinned. Then let's find that place. The ship soared into the stars. A new adventure was just beginning.